Hello and welcome to Shattered Ice Gaming, and today we are going to be doing a preview mission of Terminus Frontier. Now, for those of you who don't know, Terminus Frontier is a game that recently concluded its Kickstarter, and it is available for late backing, and I am fortunate enough to have here this prototype. And so this is going to be an example of the gameplay for Terminus Frontier. Now, because the game isn't available yet, and it is going to be a campaign, skirmish, dungeon crawler type game, I'm going to generalise the missions we're playing in terms of our objective and the story. I'm not actually going to read anything from the sample mission book, just because I don't want to kind of spoil anything beyond what takes place on the board. So this is Mission 1, The Hunt, and in this mission we are trying to save these colonists that we can see on the board here, and also hunt down the leader of these scrapper alien raiders called the Butcher. And this is our main setup of the board. We have a door over here which could lead to who knows where. These small cubes are cover cubes which will provide us cover. And this here is like a barricade, which is essentially more cover. If you're behind cover and an enemy shoots and their line of sight passes through it, it halves the damage. And that goes both ways, so enemies can benefit from cover as well. Now, you've probably noticed these nice little 3D boxes, which are representing buildings of this colony planet. And we can, in fact, stand on top of these and knock each other off of them. So that's the basics of the board. We've got 5 scrappers who we're up against. These tokens here are blip tokens, which are just spawn points. And then we also have these item tokens here. So if we move over one of these, we will get to draw a gear card and get some loot. So this is the character I'm going to be playing as, and this is the operative Shadow Ops Sniper. She's equipped with the Eliminator M520 sniper rifle and a Falcon R22 pistol. And what I'm going to be doing throughout each of these playthroughs is I'm going to take on a different character role in each one, so you guys can see the different characters available to you and how they play. However, there is no chance we could accomplish this mission by ourselves, so I will be playing these in solo mode. And in solo mode, you can take extra crew members with you. And crew members are essentially simplified versions of the characters that are just a little bit easier to manage. So we have with us the Maverick Rogue, who has this Talon R29 pistol, and we also have the Zealot Gladiator, who is armed with his cybernetic arm and Mauler R35 shotgun. The weapons are printed on their character cards, but the Talon R29 has an extra ammunition card in its deck, as you can see just down here in this corner. They each have 2 ability cards, and these work like special abilities in a lot of dungeon crawlers such as Descent and things like that, where you spend the number of action points designated by the yellow number, and you can only use them once per turn. And at the end of the turn, one of those ability cards that you've used will become available for use again. So if you use both in one turn, you're only going to have one available for the next turn. I will be covering the majority of the rules of how the game plays as we play through, but that is the setup. So the last thing we have to do is deploy our heroes, or drift hunters, to the board. Because this is a tutorial scenario, it kind of gives us recommended placements that would probably be the best for us. However, it does state we can place them wherever we want. So I'm going to take our Zealot Gladiator and put him here in the recommended location. Then I'm going to take our Maverick Rogue and put her here in the recommended location. And now the operative, who I am playing as, it does recommend she starts over here, but that's a long way for me to reach, so I'm going to put her here instead. Oh, and finally we need to take this colonist marker and place it on space 3 of this threat track. Now, the way this threat track works is enemies tend to attack whoever is highest on it. So at the minute, the colonists are going to be attacked. And although it's not our objective, we do want to minimise the civilian casualties. So ideally we want to have our character tokens higher up this track, so we will be targeted instead of them. Now on the right side of this board is the squad formation track, which is essentially our initiative track. And what we do at the start of each turn is we take these 3 character tokens, one for each of our characters, and we get to pick where we go on this board in either the green or blue spaces. Essentially, odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, is where our characters get placed. Then the enemies, the hostiles, will be placed on the even numbers, and we'll see how they get placed in a moment. But I get to pick where I want to be placed. So I'm going to start with the operative as my primary character, and I'm going to place her at initiative 7 as the fire gunner. Now the reason I'm doing this is because as the fire gunner she gains 1 threat, so she doesn't go up very high on the threat track, but she gains 3 actions and she gets a +1 damage token, which is called a boost token. So she gets one of these, which we'll put here. So when she moves up the threat track equal to whatever number is next to this threat icon, if she lands on a space with one of these blue symbols, she gains a resolve token, which is one of these. Now this goes on our player board and can be used throughout the mission to activate our mantra skills. Okay, then next we're going to place the Maverick. The Maverick probably wants 3 actions as well, so we're going to place her at initiative 5, and she goes up 2 spaces on the threat track. Crew members don't gain resolve, so we don't need to worry about this icon for the Zealot or the Maverick. It's only our main character, the operative, who will be getting this. And then lastly, we're going to have the Zealot. He wants to go really early, so we're actually going to put him at initiative 1. He's going to take point, and he goes 3 spaces on the threat track. Because this guy is our tank, he is the one who is going to be able to take the damage for these colonists, hopefully. And that's the first part of the turn done. The next thing we do is take this hostile deck, which is pre-composed at the start of the mission, so it's in a specific order, so we don't shuffle it. And then we draw the top card. And this tells us, seize the initiative. Unprepared for your squad, sudden assault, the enemy is taken by surprise. So it tells us here that they're going to target whoever has the highest threat value. Then down here we have our enemy groups and their actions. So there are a possibility of 3 different group colours. There is the black unit, the yellow unit, and the red unit. Now, the colonists in this scenario are the black unit. But they're not enemies, they don't do anything, so they don't go on the formation track, they just sit there, so we don't need to worry about this. The yellow unit, which is our scrappers, goes at space 8 on the initiative track. So we take this yellow token and we place it at space 8, and then there is no red unit here. So we will look at what they do on their turn, but fortunately for us, we're actually all going before them, so we can probably do some good damage here. And now we're ready to begin our first turn. So, our Zealot is the first one to activate, and he receives 2 actions. Now, the Zealot is going first, and he's a crew member. So, crew members work slightly differently. With the Operative, we will be mostly playing action cards for her. That is how the main characters work in this game. But when you're playing solo, and you have crew member characters, so crew members use the 7 basic actions available in the game, which I can show you here. We've got move, shoot, melee, reload, revive, order, and aim. So most of these are very, self-explanatory. Move is moving, shooting is shooting, melee is meleeing, reloading is reloading your empty ammo deck for your gun. Revive, if an ally is downed, you can get them back up. Order, now this is going to be important in this mission, so it basically allows you to order an ally colonist within 3 spaces. And then lastly is the aim action. So what this means is we can reveal the top card of our ammo deck so we can see what the result is. Then we can place it at the top or bottom of the deck. And because this has got a little number 2 here, it means we get to draw the top 2 cards of the ammo deck. So our Zealot and Maverick are going to be using those actions, plus the special action cards they have available to them. The Operative is going to be using mostly her action deck. So with all that said, let's get on with the Zealot. So he's right next to this Scrapper, and the first thing he's going to do is use a ranged attack against him with his shotgun. Now you can make ranged attacks against adjacent enemies, and in fact with the Mauler R35, that's probably the best thing to do. Because at range 1 to 2, this attack automatically gets +2 damage. So we draw an ammo card, and we get a 3, which means the Zealot just unloads at point blank range, blasting the guts of this Scrapper all over the place. Because of course we had +2 to that, which makes that 5 damage. Now each of the Scrappers starts with 8 health. He's not in cover and he's not wearing any armour, so he just takes 5 damage immediately, which drops him from 8 health all the way down to 3. And then with his second action, he's going to activate his Grab and Throw special ability card, which costs him 1 action point. Now it allows him to move 2 spaces and then perform a combo melee attack. So what he's going to do is he's going to move 1, 2. Now we can move through allies, but we can't move through enemies. So he's going to move through this colonist to get behind him, and then we perform a combo attack. So when we perform a combo attack, it means we take our ammo deck for his cybernetic arm because it's melee. I know it's strange that melee weapons have ammo decks, but it's just how the combat system works. So when you do a melee attack, you basically have 2 different firing modes. You have a strike, which means you just draw 1 card. With a combo, you draw 2 cards, as we're about to do. And then as you can see on these cards, if these had been strikes, they would have had these special effects applied to them. As it happens, it's just 1 damage for each of those. And then when you perform a combo attack, after drawing those 2 cards, you will draw a 3rd card and discard it without resolving it. So that would have been 2 damage. So we actually got a pretty poor result there. Which means we ignore this one and our attack does 2 damage. Which drops this Scrapper to 1 health. Now this attack also applies Smashback 2. And Smashback basically is exactly what it sounds like. It's knocking your enemy away from you. So the thing about Smashback is it must move the target further away from the attacker. So when I move him with this Smashback, he must move or attempt to move further away from the Zealots. So we're going to push him or smash him back to here, and then we're going to attempt to smash him back to here, which would put him 1, 2. Oh no, that wouldn't work. Yeah, so I can't actually push him into this cube, which would have dealt him damage. I'm going to have to push him just straight backwards. So we're going to push him down to there, which is unfortunate. That wasn't a great turn for the Zealot. I was hoping he would have killed him. And then the Zealot's done. So now we move on to the Maverick, who is going at initiative 5, and she gets 3 actions. So with her first action, the Maverick's going to use her Trickshot Disarm card, which allows her to fire her pistol on either pulse or burst, and if she deals damage, it inflicts jam on the enemy, which means they won't be able to attack, and will hopefully help save the colonists. I think she's going to target this Scrapper here. So she can fire on pulse or burst. Pulse is 1 card, burst is 2 cards and discard 1. So we want to do some damage to him. So we're going to go with burst. So we have cover piercing, and then 3 damage, and then this direct hit is discarded. So this is a total of 5 damage. However, the Talon R29 she's using, when it's within 3 spaces of its target, it deals 1 extra damage. So this is going to deal 6 damage, and this means it would ignore his cover if we discarded another card, but he's not in cover, so we don't need to worry about it. So Scrapper number 5 takes 6 damage, dropping him all the way down to 2 health. And because it did damage to him, we place a jam token on him, which means he can't attack this turn. And we've still got 2 actions left. So we are actually going to go for scrapper number 4 over here. 2, 3, 4, yep. She has range to him, so we're going to take him down before he can hurt that colonist. So with her second action, she's going to fire her pistol on pulse at him. Okay, and on pulse it does 1 damage, and it ignores cover and armour. But unfortunately, he isn't in cover, and he isn't wearing any armour, so it just does 1 damage to him. So scrapper number 4 goes down to 7 health. And then with her third and final action, she's going to use her last 3 shots on burst. So the first card does 2 damage, second card does 1 damage, and the last card, which is discarded, is this inaccurate card. It does no damage, and if it's played by a regular character and they have a suppression card, it would actually make the entire attack miss. But fortunately, she's a crew member, so she doesn't need to worry about that. So it only does 3 damage to him, reducing him to 4 health. And then we have our operative in the fire gun position. So I should have done this at the start of the game, but I'll show you it now. So the operative has 12 action cards available to her. What we do is we give these a shuffle, and then we draw 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as well as those core actions we've seen, these are the actions we have available to us. So we have these 2, Hollow Distraction and Reflex Sight. It says React here, which means they are reaction cards. They're used during the enemy phase. So the first thing we're going to do is use Eliminate. This costs us 1 of our 3 action points, and it moves us up 1 space on the threat track. But what it does is it lets us perform an aim action and then fire. So we pick which weapon we want to aim with. It's going to be our Eliminator. So we draw the top card and we see it's 3 damage. So we're definitely keeping that. The Eliminator can only fire on pulse mode. It can only draw 1 ammo card. And we have a range of 10 with this rifle. So 1, 2, 3. Yep, he's definitely within range. I think we're going to take down scrapper number 4. So we use our pulse shot, which does 3 damage. We spend this token for 4 damage, and that takes away the last of his health and kills him. Then with our second action, we're going to use pinning fire, and we're going to use it on scrapper number 1 down here. So this again increases our threat by 1, which puts us on threat 3, and so we gain another resolve token. And if we inflict damage, this guy will be pinned, so he won't be able to move. But he does only have 1 health left, so it will probably kill him as long as I do damage to him. So it's firing on pulse again. Oh, and we get the inaccurate, so it doesn't do anything. That's unfortunate. And then we have fire reposition. So we're going to use that as well. So now we can fire on pulse or burst, and we can make a move action of 2. So we have to put ourselves at 1 more on the threat track. We're going to try and take down scrapper number 1, because scrapper number 5 can't attack. So we draw our ammo card, and this time we get a direct hit, ignores armour and cover. She takes out scrapper number 1, and that's her 3 actions done. And that is all of our drift hunters done. So now the yellow hostiles activate, and their enemy behaviour is to take cover and attack using the red icon on their character card. So they will move up to 3 spaces, and then they will perform this rifle attack, which means they will attack the target character within 6 range. And this icon here means they will be drawing a light fire attack card. So the operative is the highest on the threat track, which means they're going to go after her. And hostiles always act in numerical order going up. So number 2 will go first. So he's going to get to the closest piece of cover. That also gives him range to the operative. But before he shoots, we're going to play our react card for reflex shot, which basically means at any point during the enemy turn, I can make a pulse or a burst attack. She's going to fire her Eliminator. And unfortunately, this is the unsteady result, which tells us if it's a reaction or we move this turn, it's a miss. So unfortunately that doesn't do anything. So it turns out he was safe. And then he is going to shoot at the operative. So we draw one of these light fire yellow cards down here. And that's a good hit, because it deals us 3 damage to the chest, and it also reduces our threat by 2. So the operative goes back down to space 2 on the threat track. Now, scrapper number 3 is also going to try and get to cover. So he's going to go 1, 2. Now they always try to get to cover that gets them in range and as close as possible. And their range is 6. So because he can't stand here, he's actually going to try and move towards the next closest piece of cover. So he will move to here. And then he will shoot at the operative. So he also draws a light fire card. Okay, so this does 1 damage to the chest and it puts a suppression card into our hand. So we draw one of these suppression cards. They're all the same. All these do is take up a space in your hand. And the last one is scrapper number 5. So he'll get to the closest piece of cover, which is this one here. But because he's jammed, he can't attack. He won't go to that piece of cover because now the Zealot is the highest on the threat track. So instead of moving to there, he'll move to here. And he would try and attack the Zealot, but he's jammed. So that token gets removed. And that's the end of the hostile's turn. And this brings us on to the end of the turn. So we get to refresh a card for each of our crew members. Then our operative currently has 2 cards in her hand because of this suppression. And her hand size is 5, so we have to draw 3 cards for her. Which gives us our hand of 5 back. And then the last thing we do is we look at the hostile deck and we see it says here Scenario Event A. So we have to resolve Event A, which we will find in the scenario book. So like I said, I'm not going to spoil any of the story, but what happens here is 2 new scrappers spawn. One here and one here. And then we go on to the next turn, which means we take all of these off the board and we begin placing them again. So our operative is going to be the fire gunner again because she needs that extra action. She moves back up to 3 on the threat track. Now when you move up on the threat track a second time, if you land on one of these spaces with the resolve, you don't collect this resolve again, you only collect it once per game. So you will only ever have a maximum of 7 resolve tokens. Our Zealot is going to take the flank position and gain 2 threat. And the reason he's doing that is because if we look here, we have this move 2 icon, which means he can immediately move 2 spaces. So he's going to move 1, 2 to here. Oh, the operative would have gained a +1 damage token. And then lastly, our Maverick, she's probably going to take on the point roll, I think, this time. And then we draw a Hostile Forces card. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so as their numbers are cut down, the enemies take cover and retaliate. Okay, so the yellow hostiles are going to activate at initiative 2. But our Maverick still gets to go earlier. Now she only gets 2 actions, and we kind of need to get through this door. So she has 4 movements. So because the Zealot's closer, we're probably going to leave it to him. So the first thing the Maverick is going to do is reload her R29 pistol, because it's out of bullets. So we take our discarded ammo cards, and then we just shuffle them up. And that's a reload action done. Then she's going to try and take out scrapper number 5. So we can't risk a miss here. So we're going to fire at him on burst. And we're just going to do a regular shoot action here. So her first shot does 1 damage. The next one does 2, so that's 3. And then we discard this inaccurate card. So it's 3 damage onto him. He only had 2 health left. So we take down that scrapper. Then it is the enemy's turn to activate. So this time they're going to use take cover and attack whoever is highest on the threat track, which means it's going to be either the Zealot or the Maverick. So we start with Scrapper number 1. He will move to the closest piece of cover, and he has line of sight to the Maverick from here. So he once again uses his red attack, which means he draws a light fire card, and it does 1 damage to her. Crew members don't have different hit locations, they just have 1 health track. So she's dropped to 8 health. Then Scrapper number 2 will try and get to cover. So this is his closest piece of cover. That puts it between him and the Zealot and the Maverick. And then as the Zealot is his closest target, out of the 2, he will shoot at the Zealot. And he does 2 damage and reduces the Zealot's threat by 2. So the Zealot, who has 11 health, is dropped to 9 health. And he goes down 2 spaces on the threat track. So that means Scrapper number 3 is going to target the Maverick. And now he doesn't need to move because he's already in cover from her. So he's just going to shoot at the Maverick. And he does 1 damage to her, dropping her to 7 health. Then number 4 will also go for the Maverick. So he can't actually get into cover and still have range to his target. So he will just move forward 1, 2, 3, heading towards the closest piece of cover that would give him range. And then he attacks the Maverick with another light fire attack, which does another 1 damage to her. It's now our Zealot Gladiator's turn. He's going to use his first action to move. 1, 2, 3. And then he is going to shoot Scrapper 4. So his shotgun can only ever fire on pulse. So we just draw the top ammo card, which doesn't do anything, but because he's within 2 spaces, it does deal 2 damage, which drops him to 6 health. And that's him done. And now we only have our operative left, who is not doing as good of a job of sniping as I'd have hoped. So before she shoots, because she got quite badly damaged on the last turn, the first thing she's going to use is emergency aid for 1 action point. So she can heal up to 4 health from any body location she chooses, which will be her chest, which puts her back up to 7 health on her chest, and then she gets to discard that suppression card. Normally, you have to use an action to discard it, but this card lets me do it for free. And then with our second action, we're going to discard this hollow distraction card to allow us to perform a basic shoot action, because even when you do a basic action, you have to discard a card. So she is going to target Scrapper number 4, who is the injured one. So we draw the last card from her deck, and so if we did not move, and it's a pulse shot, which are both true, this deals 4 damage and ignores cover. And we can apply our +1 damage token, which turns it into 5 damage, dropping him all the way down to 1 health. Now we actually could do with killing him, and we've got 1 action left, so we do have our pistol. Our eliminator's out of ammo, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're within 5 range, so we're going to fire our Falcon R22 pistol on burst. So it does 3, 4 damage, and then we discard that direct hit. And with 4 damage, that is definitely enough to finish him off. And that is the end of our second turn. So now we have Event B. So Event B tells us, it just reminds us we need to get through this door. And it explains to us that to get through a door, all we have to do is move next to it, and then we can choose to open it at any point in our turn as long as we're adjacent to it. So we're probably going to have the Zealot do that. Next, we need to draw up to our hand size. So we need 3 cards. 1, 2, 3. And then we take off those tokens and we start a new turn. Okay, this time we want the operative to go early. So she's actually going to take the point position. The Maverick is going to take the flank position. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Because the operative moved Past this space, she gains another resolve token. And then lastly, our Zealot, we're going to want the most actions for him. So he is going to go as the Fire Gunner. He moves up 1. And we draw our Hostile Forces card. And we see the enemy begin targeting the colonists with lethal intent. The colonists gain 5 threats on the threat track. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh dear. Right, that's not good. And then they are placed at space number 6 on the squad formation board. Oh, our flanker got to move 2 spaces, so she would move like that. So we need to really take down as many of these as we can before they start killing the colonists. We start with our operative who is on point. So what we're going to do is we're going to use breath control, which costs us 0 action points and it allows us to do an aim 1. So we're going to look at what our Falcon R22's next card is. Okay, it's only 1 damage. So we get to choose whether to put that at the top or bottom of the deck. I think we're going to leave it at the top of the deck, because that way we know we're going to do at least 1 point of damage. Then we're going to use Paint the Target, which is also 0 action points. And what this does is it inflicts marked target on an enemy within line of sight. Ignoring cloak. None of these are cloaked, so it doesn't matter. Marked target is ignore cover when attacking this target. But that's not just for the operative. So we're going to put marked target on Scrapper number 3. Then with our first action, we're going to use Steady Shot, which increases our threat by 1 and gets us another resolve token. And then we get to fire a weapon on pulse. So we're going to fire that Falcon R22. You already know it's 1 damage. So it does 1 damage to Scrapper number 2. Okay, then what we're going to do is spend 2 of our resolve tokens to use the Unrelenting Fire ability from her operative mantra. And I don't believe this costs an action, so it allows us to reload. So we can reload our sniper rifle and then immediately perform a pulse attack. So this can't be against Scrapper number 2 because he's too close. So we'll do it against Scrapper number 3. And it does 3 damage to Scrapper number 3, dropping him to 5 health. And then we have 1 action left. And what we're actually going to use there is this sprint tactic. So this allows us to move 6 spaces. And for the rest of our turn, our attacks receive -1. But it puts us up 2 on the threat track, which gets us 2 more resolve. And now we can move 6 spaces. Now we want to get down from here. The problem is we can only get down by ladders unless we jump down. And if we look at the terrain cube, this ladder is printed here at the back. So because the ladder is printed at the back, we're going to have to go down this way. There is a ladder on this side as well, but it's blocked by this cube, so we can't enter that space. So we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which will get us to there. Our other option is to jump down here, but then we'll take falling damage, and that will damage our legs. But we do need to get moving, so I'm kind of tempted to do that. And I'm also going to do this to show you guys how the damage system works. So she jumps down from there, landing here, and I believe that ends her movement immediately. And also she takes 3 damage to her legs, which drops her leg health down to 0. So when one of your body locations is reduced to 0 health, if it's the chest, we draw a severe trauma card. If it is any of your limbs, we draw one of these minor trauma cards. And what we do is we draw them until the icon in this corner matches the location. So this one's for head, so we ignore that. This one's for head or leg, so knockdown, immediate trauma, resolve this immediately, then discard. -3 threat, gain, immobilize. But if we spend 2 resolve, then we can use perfect balance and discard that card without effect. We need to make sure they target us instead of the colonists. So actually we're going to have to spend 2 resolve to get rid of that. And that's the end of her turn. Then it's the Maverick's turn. So the Maverick is going to try to help out here, but she's also going to try and get to this door with the Zealot. So her first action is going to be to move. So she moves 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. She's going to move to there, and then she's going to try and take down scrapper number 3. So she's going to fire at him on burst. Then we get 3 damage, and then we get cover piercing, but that one's discarded. So we do 3, 4, 5, and she's within 3 range, so it's 6 damage. So she actually kills him. And then it's the yellow hostile's turn next. So this time, they use their purple ability on their card, which, as we can see here, they attempt to take cover, and that's on top of the movement, if they have any, but they don't. So they're going to attempt to take cover, they're going to heal 2 to themselves, then they're going to attack and put suppression cards into their target's hand, which is quite unfortunate for us. So they move 3. So we start with scrapper number 2. So he's going to move here to get into cover, as the operative is his target. He heals 2 damage to himself, which puts him back onto 8 health. And then he does a light fire attack, which deals 1 damage to the legs. Now, as she is already at 0 health on her legs, it is transferred onto the chest. And if the chest health drops to 0, that's when you're more likely to get eliminated. So that drops her to 6 health on the legs. Then we also have to add a suppression card to our hand, because of that ability they had. Now this scrapper is going to attempt to target the operative, so he will go 1, 2, 3, and then it's within range 6, which, as we can see, is clearly too far away. So he will target the next highest threat, which unfortunately for us is this colonist. Full health. And this does 3 damage to that colonist, but it does reduce their threat value by 2. So colonist number 3 takes 3 damage, dropping her to 1 health. So we only have our zealot left. So the zealot is going to use his first action to move. So he's going to move 1 to here. Now before we open the door, the zealot lands on the space with this loot token. And what that means is he gets to draw a gear card. And because the loot token has a yellow container, we draw from the yellow standard gear deck. And he finds a combat helmet, which would be better for our operative. But he can use this. Crew members are allowed to use up to 1 piece of equipment. However, it's really not any use to him. So we only moved 1 space, and when we're next to this door, we can open it. So, as you can see, opening that door has set up this new area where we've got the butcher, who is part of the red squad, and there's only 1 of him. Then 3 new scrappers and a new colonist. The butcher is a much tougher version of the other scrappers, and he is kind of like our mini-boss. You may have noticed I've had to borrow a couple of the cover cubes, because the map says to set up cover in this new area. But there aren't enough cover cubes, so I just borrowed 2 that I don't think I'll be using again. So because the butcher has just appeared on the board, we'll need to take his red token and place it in the appropriate space on the squad formation board, and then we can continue our movement, which we are going to do by moving to here. And then unfortunately the zealot is really low on the threat track, so there's not much point going for an attack. Instead, he's going to order this colonist to move. And he's going to order her to move 1, 2, 3 and get behind him as he bravely defends her. And the butcher has 16 health, so he's going to be much harder to take down. The zealot was in the fire gunner role, wasn't he? So he's got 1 more action. Now, I could shoot at him or attack him, but the butcher's going to regenerate on his turn. So I don't really want to attack him. And the shotgun only has a maximum range of 4. So I need to get in there and do some real damage to the butcher. So he's just going to go 1, 2, 3. And then it's the butcher's turn. So he's got a movement of 4. So he's going to move 4 towards his main target, which is the operative out here. She's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then he's going to target whoever's within range that is highest on the threat track. And that is going to be the Maverick. So he draws a light fire card. Oh, and it's a miss. It does absolutely nothing. And that's the end of the turn. So the first thing we'll do is draw our cards for the operative. Now she only has 1 card left in her deck, so we've got 3 there. Now whenever you run out of cards in your deck, you have to draw a suppression card. So she gets a second suppression card. Then we shuffle her deck and draw up to 5. So basically we'll have 3 action cards and 2 suppression cards. Then we clear the formation track, and finally we resolve scenario event C, which this just tells us to take down the Butcher before he escapes, and then we've got 2 rounds left. So basically if we can kill the Butcher, then that's the end of it. We don't need to worry about the other guys. So we want the Zealot to go first. So he gains 3 threat, 1, 2, 3. Then the Maverick, we're going to make the Fire Gunner. And then lastly, the Operative, we will make the Primary Gunner. So then we draw our Hostile Forces card, and we see the Yellow Squad goes at 2. And the Butcher will be going at 4. So lucky for us, our Zealot is going first. Now he only has 2 actions, so he's going to use his first action to shoot with his shotgun into the back of the Butcher. So the shotgun's fired on pulse, and it's 3 damage, plus he's within 2 range, so we add 2 damage to the attack, and we have a +1 damage token from earlier. So that does a total of 6 damage to the Butcher, reducing him to 10 health. Then with his second action, the Zealot is going to use Grab and Throw, which allows him to move 2 spaces and then perform a melee attack. And it has to be a combo. So we draw 1, 2, and then we discard that one. So that does 3 damage to the Butcher, and it inflicts Smashback 2. So he's dropped to 7 health, and then we move him 2 spaces. So we're going to go 1, 2, and move him that way. So next is the Yellow Hostiles, so the basic Scrappers are going to activate. And they will charge, and then do their red attack. Now when an enemy charges, it doesn't try and get to cover. So we start with Scrapper number 1, we'll just go 1, 2, 3, and then he will shoot at the Operative. But before he can shoot, the Operative's going to play this Intercept reaction card. It allows her to fire a weapon on pulse. So she's going to fire the sniper rifle. And of course it's a miss. But it does prevent incoming damage by 1. So this Scrapper now shoots at her, and it would do 1 damage and a suppression card. So it doesn't do the damage. So she's still on 6 health on her chest, but I believe we do still add a suppression card to our hand. Which means we now have 3 suppression cards in our hand, so she's really getting a bit banged up. I think the maximum you can ever have in your hand is 4. You will always get 1 action card, I believe. I don't think it can ever be more than 4. Oh, but she can do... Okay, she's getting way too bashed up. So we're actually going to use this Hollow card reaction as well. This Hollow Distraction. Choose an ally. You may increase or decrease their threat by up to 3. Then redetermine the current enemy's attack target. Okay, well, she'll use it on when this guy goes. Because we've already done the attack against her from that. So she's going to choose the Maverick. 1, 2, 3. So the Maverick has just hit 10 on the threat track, which means the Maverick gains both a marked target token and a +1 damage token. And now Scrapper number 2 is going to attack her, and he charges, so he gets as close as he can, and then he does a light fire attack against her for 2 damage, dropping her to 4 health. Then Scrapper number 3 will go 1, 2, 3. Now, because line of sight is drawn from centre square to centre square, he doesn't actually have line of sight. You can trace line of sight through friendlies. So because he doesn't have line of sight to the Maverick, he will shoot at the Zealot instead. So he does a light fire attack against him, and it does 2 damage to the Zealot, dropping him to 7 health. Then Scrapper number 4. 1, 2. So he gets to there, and he's going to do the same. And it's a light fire against the Zealot again, another 2 damage, oof, which drops him to 5 health. And then the last Scrapper, he's going to do the same thing. And it just does 1 damage this time. That was a lot of damage on the Zealot. It's a good job he's got a lot of health. He's only got 4 health left now, though. And then next, the Butcher is going to activate. So the Butcher does a charge +1, but he doesn't need it because he's going to target the Maverick, so he's just going to move 1 space to get next to her. Then he does his red attack action, which is a light fire with +1 damage, so that's going to do 3 damage to the Maverick, which drops her all the way down to 1 health. But thankfully, that is the end of the enemy turn, and now we will get to do our turn. So the operative can barely do anything this turn. She's going to use all 3 of her actions to get rid of these 3 suppression cards. But she does have 2 resolve tokens left, so we're going to spend both of those to allow her to do a reload and an attack using Unrelenting Fire. So enemy and allied units don't block line of sight, so the operative can actually shoot at the Scrapper Butcher from here. And it doesn't, I don't think he's going to get the benefit from this cover either. So she's just going to fire her sniper rifle on pulse. And it's on pulse, and we did not move, so it does 4 damage, and it would ignore cover, so it doesn't even matter if he would get any cover bonus from this. So that's 4 damage, that's really good. 1, 2, 3, 4, dropping into 3 health. Wow. Okay, to say all I did was get rid of those suppression cards. That resolve really came in handy there. So now it's the Maverick's turn. And the Maverick, with her 1 point of health, we're going to hope that she can finish him off. So she's got 3 actions. She's going to spin around. Then she is going to reload her R29 pistol. So she has 2 shots at this. And he's got 3 health. So she should be okay here. We should have this done. So she's going to fire with her second action. She took the fire gunner roll as well. So it means she would get another one of these +1 damage tokens. And she already had 1 from hitting initiative 10. Now, when you get a second one of these boost tokens, you don't take a second token. You actually flip over the token you've got. So when you've got 2, it becomes +3 damage. So that makes things even better for us. So we're definitely going to spend that. And then she's going to fire on burst. So we get a 3. A miss, but it doesn't matter. And then a discard of 1. So that action actually does 6 damage to the Butcher. And that reduces him to 0 health and kills him. So now we finish playing until the end of the round. And because we've defeated the Butcher, that's it, that's the end of the game. And that was her second action. So why not? We'll just try and kill Scrapper number 2 as well. I doubt we will, but let's see how that goes. So we'll fire on burst again. 2, 3, 4, and then a discard. So it's 4 damage plus the 1 because she's adjacent, so it does 5 damage to him. Nah, Scrapper number 2 is still alive. He's still got 3 health left. And at that point, with our objective of defeating the Butcher being completed, the mission would end. So that's it for this first sample mission of Terminus Frontier. I hope I got most of the rules right there, and I hope you guys could follow along. As you can see, this is a pretty big game. I have to have a lot of the cards off camera just so we can kind of keep the board in view. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope this gave you a good idea of whether you like the look of this gameplay and whether you maybe want to consider supporting this game. I will be doing more playthroughs of this, so I will see you in the next one. Bye.